Krupa madam, please begin.
Today we have scheduled webinar self-help strategies. It has been organized by Department of Pari Polytechnic Institute of Pari University. I, Krupa Padelia, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Ravi, a multi-awarded human resources and training professional, a top HR and recognized international scientific speaker with mission transparency and open lives. He has worked with various multinational organizations for long with mystery in leadership, customer service, culture and HR, diversity and mental health and work. Julix, meters, Asia Federation, Sites, ABS, Columbus, and International. Hello? Hello?
Shall I start?
Hello, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. Today we have scheduled webinar on mental health and self-care strategies, which has been organized by Applied Science and Humanities Department of Parul Polytechnic Institute of Parul University. I, Krupa Padelia, would like to introduce today's guest speaker, Fabi Karino, a multi-awarded human resources and training professional, a top-notch HR thought leader and recognized international soft skills speaker with a mission transfer companies and people's lives and career. She has worked with various local and multinational organizations for more than 2 decades with mastery in leadership, sales, customer service, culture, and HR, diversity and inclusion, mental health at the workplace. He had worked with companies like Julix, Thomas Reuters, Handling Asia Federation, Sites, ABS, Syrian University, Columbus, and Dance School International. He has received several distinct recognition such as Top 50 Global HR Tech Award and Top 12 Most Influential HR Leader in Asia. Asia Pacific's Most Innovative Training and Development Leaders by the World HRD Congress, Philippines, Top Training and Development Professional. He has been chosen as LinkedIn's Rising Professionalities by Marketing in Asia and Philippines. Most Fabulous Training and Development Leaders by World HRD Congress. Also chosen as Top 100 Most Influential Filipina on LinkedIn 2021 and 22 and Top 100 Filipinos on LinkedIn for 2021. He has studied Masters in Organization Development from De La Salle University and Bachelor of Science in Clinical Psychology from St. Louis University. He is a certified Master practitioner coach on neuro-linguistic programming obtained in the United Kingdom. He's also an executive and wellness coach undergoing ICF credentialing. It is a pleasure to welcome you here, ma'am, today on this platform, and you can start with the session.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I hope that you are um, well and healthy at home. I'm Fabi Carino, and I will be talking about something that's so relevant, especially so that it is the Mental Health Month. And we are actually going to talk about why mental health and what is mental health. Why is mental health so important to all of us? And I'll also be talking about some self care strategies that you could actually be practicing and be reminded of so we can take care of our mental health. So, let me just give you a brief background in terms of context what mental health is all about. So, mental health is a state of well being in which an individual can cope with his everyday stressor, his ability to work productively, and able to reach his or her full potential and contribute to the community. Now, mental health, along with physical health and social well-being, are all integrated with each other. And overall, when they are integrated, you can now define a healthy individual. Mental health, I'd like to tell you, is more than absent of mental illness. All of us have mental health. And I'd like to say that you can have poor mental health without having a mental illness. And likewise, you can have a mental health with a mental illness. So let me explain a few more facts about mental health. Youth depression all over the world has risen from 5.9% to 8.2%. And this would normally be between the range of 13 to 18 years old among our teens. And also, I'd like to tell you that depression symptoms also impact in school and interfere with personal relationships, especially during the time of the pandemic where most of us were isolated and didn't have any social interaction as much as we did before the pandemic. Well, I'm sure nowadays, if it's a little bit normalized already in your countries, it is going to be better that people are going out and being able to socialize with other people. Most people lack access to medical health treatment in every country, whether it's a third world country or a first world country, even in the US. Only 56% with mental illness did not receive care in the last year. So, mental illness can affect people of any age, religion, or income. A mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts people's thinking, feeling, and mood, and their ability to relate others, and even to work or simple daily functioning, such as even getting up in the morning. Many factors really affect the mental health condition of individuals, including life experiences such as trauma when during childhood or history of abuse, biological factors that would be hereditary from parents and family history of mental illness. Depression is actually leading cause of the disability worldwide. I also want to share that the members of the LGBTQ community are almost 3 times likely to experience mental health condition such as depression and general anxiety disorder because of the feeling of isolation. Common signs of mental health will be mood swings, eating habits, excessive worrying, and 1/3 of mental illness, as shown before, will be prevalent during the time of 14 years old, and 3/4 of the mental illness will already begin by 24 years old based on studies. More than 1 in 4 adults living with serious mental illness also struggles when they make substance abuse. I'd like to say that this is simply the general facts on the mental health, but I also place down here the facts on mental health at the workplace. In the workplace, it is considered that 1 out of 5 individuals get mentally ill in a year. And I'd like to explain that further. Productivity and results is affected at work. And if you've heard recently, the great resignation is a phenomenon that we have been experiencing in the workplace. A lot of people have been resigning, considering other things, and realizing to take care of their mental health. The problem is mental stigma is still prevalent in every country or in every organization. So not everyone would like to talk about it. 64% of employees would always describe their work to be stressful, and 52% believe their mental health is interfered with their work. Just imagine working the whole day and then taking care of your family after. Or if you are also a working student, you would have to juggle all these things together. 24% actually would have a panic attack, and 41% have been diagnosed with a mental health issue at the workplace. And this was a survey of full-time employees for almost 1,012 employees. Now, going back to the office setup, we call this sometimes the mental illness or mental health of the individual becomes the elephant in the room, since we don't talk about it. So mental health or mental illness or people with mental illness are divided into different elephants, so to speak. We could probably talk about the amazing mammoth. This is an example when an employee would lose a loved one or would have one traumatic event in his life. So that's an example of an external stressor. And an employee would have to adjust losing a loved one, whether they lose their parents or their child. It's very painful. I myself have gone through this kind of emotion. And this is what you call a transient phase where they go through an adjustment disorder. Another employee would be those what we call invisible elephants. What are the invisible elephants? Employees with mental illness that do not show any sign of mental illness. They are crying on the background. They are grieving behind closed doors. They are depressed and feeling low. And so what happened is they are camouflaging in the cubicle, and they really are good at keeping what they feel and what they think and what their moods are. So there are a lot of employees who are actually said to be 1 out of 5 are considered to be what you call invisible elephant. Then you have the rampaging pachyderms. And what are they? These are the kind of individuals who have significantly disrupted episode of behavior at work. So they easily get mad, they cannot control their temper, they have probably tantrums that would signify physical abuse with other people, and they would be violent. So these are what we call the rampaging pachyderms. Now, I'd like to discuss the different mental health states of individuals. This is not really complete, but I'd like to show to you what are the most common ones that we go through, and perhaps you could also try to take a look at in where you are right now. First and foremost, we have what we call languishing. And this is made popular by Adam Grant, a Wharton psychology professor. And I think this was coined during the middle of the pandemic. And it's the void actually between depression and flourishing. You're not sad, you're not happy, you are just in between. but it's the absence of well-being. You don't have any mental illness, but you're also not in a picture of a mental health either. So what would be some feelings of this? You could actually lack focus, and you would have what we call inability to actually experience those small joys and victory. And you're also embarrassed to ask for help because of the stigma that goes with mental health. Another kind of state is what we call emotional exhaustion. This happens to be prevalent during after a relationship, when people get emotionally exhausted, or when you are in a stressful job. And emotional exhaustion is in the sense of overwhelmingness. Can you imagine? This was very common, especially for our frontliners at the time during the pandemic. And a lot of them were complaining about emotionally exhausting for them, physically exhausting for them, because emotional exhaustion is not only all about the emotions, but it also deals with physical tiredness and mental tiredness. They have difficulty in concentrating, and they have reached the total capacity to get through such emotion. Then there's also what we call anxiety, where people have this kind of panic attacks. And many people may have this anxiety, but it's not necessarily a disorder. And there are also different kinds of disorder. There may be a general anxiety disorder, a social anxiety disorder where they don't want to be mingling with other people, or a separation anxiety disorder when they are left alone. Experts recommend medical attention when, especially if this attacks your during work processes, or when you are having already suicidal thoughts. The other one is depression, which is the most common one that we hear from people when they feel they are depressed. And this is a mood disorder, and it can begin at any age, and it starts in adulthood and can be spurred by several factors such as family or certain illness or medications, stress at work, or trauma. Those who suffer from depression may encounter persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. And this is not more than about feeling blue, but depression isn't a weakness, but sometimes people try to say to snap out from it. So people cannot snap out from it, okay? Because depression is long term, and it requires a treatment that has a plan and also a long term benefit. And the common symptoms of depression would be fatigue, changes in sleep, appetite loss, or on the other hand, some people can tend to overeat. Some people can tend to buy a lot of stuff and do over shopping. And these are just symptoms where people try to fill in the void when they are depressed. And experts would recommend psychotherapy as one of the things that can actually cure depression, but there's no one size fits all, because if a person does feel this kind of state, they would have to actually seek help. There's also what we call a lonely, and this is the opposite of loneliness. A lonely means that this is the dissatisfaction that comes from not spending enough time by yourself because you're always surrounded with people. So when lonely is being by yourself, a lonely is always with other people, and you miss the feeling of being alone, especially when you're probably stuck at home during the pandemic and you feel lonely because you're stuck with your family members. And some people inherently desire solitude than others, and this is what we call the lonely state. Then at work, of course, we actually relate burnout when there is a feeling of stress, when there is a feeling of energy depletion, cynicism about their job, and they are not able to produce the right capacity of results, and therefore they have reduced professional efficacy. And that is something that a lot of people go through, especially when they are overworked. So this is what we call burnout. Lastly, this is, of course, the most healthy state. It's called flourishing. Flourishing, of course, is the opposite of everything that I've talked about. And if you are thriving mentally, you are probably flourishing. So you are flourishing if you have a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of mastery of yourself. You know how to master your emotions. You know how to manage your emotional quotient. And you know how to handle how people can also upset you sometimes, and you're able to handle this and you're not affected easily. This is what we call flourishing. So let me just tell you, we all have mental health. It's just that we are part of different continuum. Some will be flourishing and some could be emotionally exhausted, burnout, unhappy, depressed. And I'd like to ask you on your own, how do you feel today on a scale up to 1 to 10? How happy are you? Maybe that's the question I'd like to ask you, between 1 to 10. Okay. So if you've already answered that and you have a number in mind, I'd like to show you the mental health states of continuum. If you are not happy, you could have probably answered 1 or 2, and that is what we call you are in crisis. You probably feel anxious, you have low mood, you probably don't come to work as much as you want to, or you don't have the mood to go to work. You are exhausted and you have poor sleeping habits, and sometimes you cannot eat. So this is on the red zone, and this is what we call in crisis. If you probably scored yourself into 3 to 4, you are labeled as struggling. And what would be the descriptors of somebody in struggling? One is you are anxious, you are depressed, you are tired, poor performance still, poor sleep, and poor appetite. So you're actually on the verge of going through the in crisis. So this is already a red flag if you're already feeling this. If you have scored between 5 to 6, then you are considered in the surviving continuum. So from time to time, you are worried, you are nervous, you are irritable. From time to time, you are sad, you are also probably having trouble sleeping, but not consistent. You can be distracted and you can be withdrawn and not wanting to socialize or mingle with other people. Whereas if you already score yourself into 7 to 8, you are thriving. And what do you like about thriving? So mostly you are calm, you are positive, you are performing, you are sleeping well, you are eating normally, and you are normal in terms of your social activity. Of course, normal for introverts would be subjective, but I would say you know for a fact that your social activity, whether you're extrovert or introvert, would be at its optimum level. Now, when you score yourself 9 to 10, and I hope everybody or most of you would be here, these are the kind of individuals who are cheerful, they are joyful, they're energetic, they're high performance. And there's such thing what we call flow, that when they are able to work, they have that mood to continuously work without getting distracted, and they can reach that full potential because of an objective and purpose that they have in mind. So these are the whole mental health states of continuum. And there are different ways of actually assessing individuals at the workplace or in school. And this is something that you could actually do and ask your employees, your students, your friends, or yourself. If you know where you are, then you know what kind of help or what kind of self-care would you be able to apply to get out, especially if you're in crisis, struggling, and surviving. Note that it takes time from in crisis to go to excelling. It is a process. It is a long process. It is a journey, and it is not linear. From time to time, you will feel in crisis. From time to time, you feel you're thriving. Then you go back to struggling, because each journey will be different from each other. Now, the most important part in my lesson for today is we will be discussing some self-care lessons that you probably would have already known, and something that you would probably know for now as a new thing to remember. And these are so essential lessons. Some are basic and some things that I'd like to discuss further. I'll start off first by defining what is self-care. And self-care has a consistent definition from Wikipedia, from the Psychology Dictionary, and the Macmillan Dictionary. What's common about this is that it refers to actions and attitudes which contribute to the maintenance of our well-being and personal health and promotion of our human development. It's care for oneself, and these are daily activities in looking after ourselves. It's the process of looking off at oneself and avoiding all the threats and issues. And this is something that you do consistently, something you do often. Now, let me also talk about myths about self-care, because some people would think that self-care is all about indulgence. Self-care is not indulgence, okay? So I'd like to tell you that meaningful self-care includes mindful changes in patterns and thoughts and behaviors that do not contribute in your well-being. So it is definitely not considered as an indulgence. Self-care is selfish as a myth. So I'd like to tell you that when we make time for ourselves, which is so essential, we get the sufficient rest, we get exercise, you feel more energetic, and you will be able to do more for yourself as well for those around you. If you are a teacher, if you are an employee in human resources, if you are a leader, you can't fill from an empty cup. So when you make time for yourself, as you fill yourself, you're able to give more later on. Self-care is a one-time experience. So this is another myth that we should debunk. Looking after yourself is an ongoing process and practice to build resilience, to face hardships, and in preventing burnout. And as I've mentioned a while ago, it's not linear. There are instances that we go through the worst case scenario in our lives, like losing a job, losing a loved one, or other things that could probably impact us in our life. And I'd like to tell you that we have different ways of being resilient. So self-care does not only happen during these instances when something bad happens to us. Rather, self-care is an ongoing daily activity. Self-care is time-consuming. I don't agree with that. This is another myth that we need to debunk. Self-care does not require you so much money or huge chunk of your time from your busy day. The everyday habits that we do just needs to be remodeled, reprogramming our brain to take care of ourselves. Now, let me talk about the self-care tips. There are no hard fast rule on what you should be applying. And there's so many, there are actually 50 ways to take care of yourself. But I'd like to tell you, choose what works for you depending on your current situation. If you are on the brink or in crisis, definitely you cannot just handle that by yourself. It's okay not to feel okay. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to choose to look for help. Even if, regardless of your gender, male or female, we're always taught to be the more masculine, and they're not allowed to cry, and that's what most of our societies has been dictating. But the males are also having emotions, and it's just but normal to also take care of themselves. So whatever you're going through right now, you need to ensure that for you to fill in that capacity to become more efficient and to take care of yourself, you need to take a look at what would work well for you. So, for example, if you're going through an adjustment phase in your life, then you have to take a look at what would be the best way for you to adjust in that manner. Moving to a different country where you feel isolated, then what are the things that you should be doing? So, socializing more would be different approach from somebody who have lost a loved one, from somebody who's already been thriving. You still need to do something that will help you to take care of yourself. So, in other words, choose what works well for you. Number two is practice self-compassion. Self-compassion consists of three things. One is mindfulness, self-kindness, and common humanity. Being aware of the physical, emotional, and mental pain at the moment. If you are anxious, you're always looking at the future when it has not yet happened. If you're past-oriented, we tend to regret a lot of things in the past, or we try to become depressed because of things that happened in the past, and we compare the now and the past. Then we have to be mindful. We have to practice self-compassion and forgive our mistakes in the past. Forgive people that we have probably not been talking to. Forgive people who've done something wrong to us. We also have to treat ourselves with kindness, considering our own needs before other people, and recognizing the fact that all these experiences are all part of being human. So it's so important that you understand what self-compassion is all about. Before we practice compassion with other people, you have to practice self-compassion. Now, here are the different types of self-care too. And it's divided into 8 subsets. One would be physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, space, financial, and work. And I'd like to explain one by one on what you can do to take care of yourself. First and foremost, it's basic. Physical. What do you need to do? You need to ask yourself, am I sleeping well? Or is there something bothering me? Or am I always on my phone, always in social media and keeping me up the whole night? This makes an impact in the way we sleep. So make sure you get enough sleep at night. I make it a practice to close my phone after 9 o'clock in the evening. I usually sleep early, and that really helps because I feel refreshed the following day. Of course, it's so essential to do yoga and stretching. And if you're doing that, I'm sure you know the benefits of yoga. I started yoga during the pandemic, and I've learned to be more stable in how I feel. No more anxiety when it comes to work, and I feel less stressed with the way I work. So in my profession as an HR practitioner, it's so essential that I have introspection, and yoga and meditation has helped me a lot in terms of putting balance in my life. Rest and recreation is so essential. Resting and not working like 10 hours and missing so much of your break time. So regardless if you're working from home, you need to take 15 minutes break every 3 hours. That's going to fuel you to do more. The second one would be emotional. So when we say self-care through emotional manner, we would like to talk about stress management. How stressed are you? How do you manage stress? Stress is normal. Of course, we'd like to tell you that every day we do have stressors in our life. The simple traffic that we encounter every day, if you have toddlers at home, if you have a difficult boss, it could be a stressor. Or if you don't have a job, this could be a stressor in your life right now. And these are normal things that we go through. But How do we handle it? Do we just think about it? Or do we use reframing to think of the solution? Do we use the experiences of our life to challenge us to do better and accept certain things that we cannot control? We have to look at emotional maturity. And I've mentioned earlier that a lot of teenagers have been experiencing a rise in mental disability because of that issue regarding depression of isolation when they're not allowed to go to school. We also have to look into being able to forgive, forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, practicing compassion. Through kindness, we are able to give more and we are able to feel better. And this is what we call emotional self-care. Social health care is all about putting boundaries. If you're the type of person who keeps saying yes, try to say no. There are instances when we have to put ourselves as our priority and establish our boundaries as to when we should say yes. We also have to look at our support systems, our family, our friends, our loved ones. If we don't have that, then we can ask professional help. There's a lot of counselors, coaches, and it really depends what kind of person you would be needing. And I'd like to inform you that anyone, just like when you go to see a dentist to have your teeth checked, you could also see someone to have you go through a coaching or counseling session and check how you are. It's so essential that anything in your social media should be positive. If you feel that there are someone who would be posting all about negativity and toxic people around you, please make sure to put boundaries with this kind of individuals. You have the capacity to block or unfollow this kind of individuals because it impacts you as a person and you have the choice to do so. Communicate, get in touch with people all the time, and have time together and ask for help. We'd also like to talk about spirituality. Spirituality also involves meditation, yoga, connection with people, connection with nature is so essential when you talk about spirituality. You may not be religious, and regardless of your religion, you can be spiritual by connecting with someone, something more stronger than you. Excuse me, can we have uh, have this? I'm hearing some turbulence noise. Okay, thank you. And of course, we'd like to talk about another spiritual impact would be journaling. For a lot of people, journaling heals the individual. And I'd like to give you a story when I was in high school, when I also had went through a certain kind of depression during that time. Journaling helped me a lot in terms of getting to process my emotion. And when I got into college and finished psychology, I look back and read my journal years ago when I was 15, 16. And then that's when I got surprised. I was simply overthinking and thinking that at the time I had so many problems which were simply because I could not ask for help and I was not opening up with anyone. So if you're in that state, it's so essential to believe in something more stronger than you. Having that spirituality and having that faith in God is going to be something that could really help you have that sacred place. The next one is personal. I've gotten into a lot of hobbies during the pandemic. I started to paint after my mom passed away. And what helped me a lot is that I'm able to use my energy in these hobbies, in painting, in scuba diving. I also love actually cycling. And I'm sure you also have this kind of hobbies. As much as possible, do those hobbies during your spare time, during weekend, because these hobbies make us really sane. Know yourself more and know your purpose in life. If you haven't found your purpose in life, it is a journey. We may not figure it out yet, but look at that mission, create and craft that mission, and work your energy towards that mission. Honor your true self, celebrate your wins. You can actually create a logbook of all the positive feedback that you have probably been receiving at work, in school, from people who you've helped. Honor your true self, because for sure we tend to forget all these things and focus on the things that we fail at or we cannot do. Look at who is around you. Look at where you are staying, because it's so essential that you are psychologically safe. At work or at home, you need to be safe. Especially ask yourself, who are the people that influence you a lot and who are the people you're always with? And promote a healthy living environment. Make sure it is secured. Make sure it promotes your mental health stability. And lastly, set up an area where you are organized, where you can actually work well. I actually followed Marie Kondo in the way she organized stuff, the tips on how to organize in such manner that you have to get rid in what no longer brings you joy. So you just have to keep what sparks joy in you. Your clothes, your files, your things that you no longer use. And if you have the tendency to hoard things, it's time to let go of those things. The more we let go of this connection with material things, the less you suffer. Financially, this is another aspect that we tend to focus more. And it's important that you have savings so that you could actually use something during difficult moments. And you can also budget it and not splurge so much. You have to make sure you have a financial plan and manage your money pretty well in resources. And make sure that everything that you buy is something you can afford. There's one saying that I've actually read, that if you can't afford to buy it twice, then you cannot afford it. Pay your bills in time and make sure you pay your obligations promptly. For work, if you're working, make sure you manage your time. We only have 24 hours a day, and we are all given that time. We need to focus and prioritize what are those things that are more closer to our goal, closer to our purpose. We need to establish boundaries. No one should be bothering you during your me time. Your time with your family is separate from your time at work. So make sure that you also have these boundaries, establish this as much as you can, that for some people, they've established when they get hired that they cannot be bothered after 8 p.m. because that's their work boundary. If you are an employer, you have to ensure that you're positive and you have a psychologically safe environment to your workers. If you are a leader, ask yourself, am I promoting a positive workplace? Or are you the one causing the psychologically unsafe environment at the workplace? Take time to learn. If you have time for yourself, then develop yourself. Development is not only the responsibility of the company, but it's also your own responsibility to keep on learning. Knowledge is power. I myself has continuously been learning because I know that I'm not an expert in everything, but when I learn something, it's something that I know that I can enhance my skills. I know I can take care of myself more, and I know I can share more. Lastly, don't forget break time all the time. So have those moments where you can take a walk, be one with nature, and have that meditation moments or have that breathing technique. I'd probably leave you off with one technique also with which we call the 4x4. Inhale for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and exhale for 4 seconds for 4 minutes every single day. And you will see that your fog mind will be addressed. If you're not able to concentrate and focus, if you're feeling low or you're feeling overwhelmed, the breathing technique is even done by the Navy SEALs, especially in difficult situations when they're anxious or when they are in training. So you could use this every single day in terms of how you would be breathing compared to not breathing properly. There's also what we call a 30-day self-care challenge. And this is an example of practicing self-care tips every single day. It takes 3 weeks to create a habit. And this is an example of how you can challenge yourself to take care of yourself. And it's not too late. You can always start today and use the 30 days to checklist what you need to do. And this is just simply a task that you can actually do for yourself from day one, spending time on how you would like to feel in this challenge every single day. And I'd like to give this as an example and a gift to everyone that if you want to start a great habit and you want to thrive in your mental health state, do the 30-day self-care challenge. I'd like to stop at this point and use this time now for a Q&A. So I'll turn this back to our host now. So do you have any questions that probably you could type in that I could probably address? Or you can actually unmute your mic, and if you have any questions, I'll allow a few minutes for a Q&A.
Thank you, madam, for such a beautiful talk. It was very nice listening to you. And there are few questions from our end. Madam, can you give some self-care plan examples for students?
Yes, so may I just clarify that the question is examples for students for self-care? Is that the question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So for students, because I was once a student and I'm still a student for life, I know for a fact that you're going through a lot of stressor in your life. And one stressor for me as a student, because I just finished a course recently, was coaching. I'm a coaching student at the moment, is being able to complete your assignments, being able to graduate in time, being able to complete your certification or your studies. I understand this could be one of your stressor on top of probably personal problems that could be related at home, whether you're having problems financially with your family or you're going through some other personal issues in your life. I'd like to give probably the best practice that I actually go through myself as a student, when I was a student, and what I also still practice nowadays. First and foremost, you need to practice self-care by using your time wisely and prioritizing your time in such manner that you stay away from social media in most times. Okay. Why would I say that this is an essential part? Because social media is so powerful, it becomes to a point that social media can be detrimental for students. So as a student, please make sure that you only stay in social media, and the most healthiest way is to actually just spend, they say 20 minutes. I know that's impossible. 20 minutes a day should be spent for that only. But if as much as possible, limit social media. That's one. In that manner, you avoid comparing yourself to other people. You avoid toxicity in social media. Another thing is that you're able to sanitize what you put into your mind. So instead of spending so much time in social media, spend your time in terms of looking at inspirational people to listen to, or looking at a mentor to talk to. Which brings me to my second point. As a student, you have to look for someone to mentor you. You have to look for someone to be your role model. Learning cannot just be by yourself. You can learn from other people, and you need to identify that person that inspires you the most. Could be a teacher of yours, could be a good friend of yours, a relative of yours, a friend of yours that you could learn something from. When you have this person, you can get all the support that you need and find a mentor that could help you go through what you're going through. If not a mentor, you can ask the help of a coach or a counselor if you want to have a deeper degree of help that is needed. As I've said, it's okay not to feel okay. And we go through this, but it's okay to also ask for help, whether it's going to be a mentor, a counselor, or a coach. I also want to give one more tip for you guys. If you're going through grieving, if you're going through a major change in your life, of course, we would be feeling sad on a daily basis. I'd like you to remember to spend only 14 minutes, 14 minutes feeling sad. You're allowed to feel sad for 14 minutes in a day. When you're already feeling that way, then embrace it. Feel sad and make sure you put up a timer and time it for 14 minutes. Once you feel that the 14 minutes is up, you have to snap and reposition and reframe your mind into something else. Do something that will make you happy. Cook and eat great food. I'm sure you have a comfort food that you will be eating. Or get sleep. Make sure that you get that sleep that you need so that you can actually refresh your mind. Another simple tip that I can tell you is, when you're going through that kind of situation, when you feel really low, is take a ice cold shower as much as possible. If it's ice cold, this could help you actually rejuvenate your body and your mind. You can now actually feel refreshed, and you could actually, more or less, for me, I use it like a practice that when I take the shower, I wash away all the negativity. I imagine myself that when I'm taking a shower, I'm throwing all away what's going through my mind, what's going through my body. If we're throwing away what's not good in our body, we're also throwing away. So that's how I do it. I imagine myself throwing away. So as a student, and my son is also a student, I give these tips. And I'm sure there are other tips out there, but those are the things that I could probably give in terms of self-care. And don't be too critical about yourself. I know how it is to be competitive. We cannot be perfect in everything that we do. Competition is good, but it has to be healthy. You have to make sure that you put balance in every aspect of your life. Okay, I hope I answered that question. I'm ready to answer if there are other questions.
What are the self-care strategies that can work for our mental health?
I didn't get the last part.
What
Can you
are
please repeat? Yeah.
self-care strategies that can work for our mental health?
I can't seem to hear the latter part. Self-care strategies
Mental health.
for mental health. Yes.
Yes.
So self-care strategies for mental health. Okay. So one and first and foremost, our mind, I'd like to tell you that our mind is the most important part of our body, yet we invest so much from our neck onwards on how to be beautiful or keep our body healthy. But our mental health is such an important factor in our well-being, because our mind controls everything. Everything is in the mind, the way we perceive things and all that. And it's so easy to say, think positive. It's so easy to say, think positive, but it's very difficult to think positive. What I'd like to say for self-care and how to mind your mind is that you need to always take care of your mind by, number one, looking at content for you and being able to express yourself well too. So, for example, that there is something that's bothering you, I'd like to actually encourage you to speak to someone. That's a self-care strategy. Number two, please do read books that are going to help you increase your knowledge about taking care of yourself. You're not alone in this. A lot of people have gone through, have survived a lot of mental health issues. And what helped them is listening to inspirational people or reading inspirational books. And I'll give you an example, like Tony Robbins is one of my favorite, Anthony Robbins is one of my favorite speakers and author. I also listen a lot and watch Oprah Winfrey all the time. I just use YouTube. I also watch Jim Rohn. These are great people. And I watch a lot of TEDx, because this actually fuels my brain as part of my mental health. Lastly, what really helped me a lot for my mental health, I'd like to tell you, is meditation. In fact, after this talk of mine, I'm going to see my meditation teacher. And what is an example of meditation? Meditation have different practice. When I meditate for my mental health, mind with all the negativity that goes through my mind. In a day's time, sleeping, I use my throw it in. So I just imagine myself throwing it. In that manner, my mental health is cleansed. Just like how we reboot our minds, just how we reboot our laptops, we should also be rebooting our mind. Don't you know that our mind is one of the dirtiest part of our body, and so it needs constant cleansing all the time. Those are some of the tips that I could give, self-care tips in terms of taking care of your mental health. Okay, so since in the interest of time, I will now just close my session through a saying that actually I made this morning. And I'd like to say that an empty torch cannot provide light at all. So when you practice self-care, you're actually fueling yourself to shine brightly. So make this an imperative habit. Take care of yourself for your mental well-being. So with that, I'd like to thank you for actually inviting me for this opportunity to talk about mental health and talk about self-care tips. And I'd like to leave you word that we only have one mind. So always mind your mind. Thank you very much, and um, I'd like to pass on the mic to our host.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for giving us your valuable time for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.